Hi guys, and welcome back to Your Old Toys. Now today, we are going to be reviewing Dagobah. Now thank you to Mad Max for helping me acquire this piece. Mad Max over at Heroes and Hobbies is, well, he's the best in his business and he really does know what he's talking about when it comes to Star Wars and acquiring these pieces. Now, the foam on this is not original, but I do have a baggie of the original foam. I'm happy to have at least original foam, even if it is not on the playset. Now let's get into this toy review. So, when Luke Skywalker and R2-D2 crash landed on Dagobah, Luke, well, he gathers some stuff and gets out of his X-Wing, and, well, he's just kind of standing on the shore of the swamp. And of course, R2-D2 falls into the swamp. Now, you can simulate this feature, and because it's reproduction foam, it doesn't have as much give as the original, and I would not do this with original foam, but you can get the gist of it here. And, well, of course, it's sensor scope R2-D2, so he sticks out his sensor scope, and Luke says, now you be more careful. And then he goes, R2 that way. And then R2-D2 goes through the swamp, and he gets pulled under eventually. And so you can simulate the ejection of R2-D2 from the swamp by doing this. Now, this was not listed on the box, but I believe this could have been intended for launching R2-D2. And it certainly does work. So, R2-D2, you just go, well, there's a button here, and then it launches R2-D2. What more is there to say? So I'll do it one more time. And, well, and R2-D2 gets launched. There you go. So then, here's the accessories that come with this. So every issue came with two different crates, one small crate and one big crate. And the hardest accessory to find, the R2-D2 levitation pin. And this was a special offer included with most issues, but not all. The Jedi training backpack. So after Luke gets out of his X-Wing gear, they set up kind of a base camp. And, well, Luke is kind of here with R2, like this. And then Yoda comes and they have their first conversation. And then flip this around. And most people get confused. This is not the door to Yoda's hut. This is the door. Yoda barely fits in there. You're not going to be able to fit Luke unless you move him like that. And, of course, R2 gets left out in the rain. And this is the window R2-D2 looks through at Luke and Yoda's conversation. Just like that. Of course, the window does not go all the way through. But this is for your hand to go in and play, although you can't really do it all that well. At least it's not just a blank floor. There is a table with a bowl and a spoon, but that's about all that's in here. And you can simulate the conversation inside the hut where Luke, becomes impatient and Yoda uses the Force to talk to Ben. Soon after that, they begin Luke's training, and this is where the Jedi training backpack comes in. And it's just like all Kenner backpacks where it goes over the head. And then there's these little tabs on either side where you just push the straps into place. And the backpack originally came with the Jedi, with the survival kit. And it later came, this backpack may have came with the AT-AT. And then it finally did come with Dagobah. So the backpack is secure on Luke, and the way this works, it does not work really great, but you can just kind of cram Yoda. Well, we're gonna have to take his cane and snake off. We can just kind of cram Yoda into this backpack, and again, it does not really work too well, but it works. It looks it looked completely different in the movie, but this is as good as you're gonna get it. And so they were kind of running around, swinging from tree branches and on vines, and anyways, so we'll take this off. And it's always getting on. That is the hard part with these backpacks. It's never ever getting off. And anyways, and so this is how it works. Yoda just kind of stands in there. Now, collectors say it only works with Yoda without a robe, but I just proved it. It works with Yoda with a robe. And so this brings us to our next play feature, which is over here, right next to the swamp. And Luke does not need any accessories for this. And this is where, Yoda is teaching Luke to use the Force. And anyways, this gimmick here, it's a cool gimmick, and you'll see. So, Luke, you slot him in to this kind of disc, put his hands up like that, and so you use the small tree branch on the back, you rotate him 180 degrees, and so you can, rotate him like that, and then now the tree branch in the back just came undone there. But you rotate him, and then you set him down. Now here's where the crates come in. So it's kind of hard to do this, but once they're mounted, you can use the Force to lift these crates And then, that's where R2 comes in. Luke lifted R2 with the Force, and you can actually do that. If you're not launching R2, that is. And you just can lift him up. And, well, R2-D2 is levitating. Now, he does not come down to an easy rest. Now, we all remember Luke's cave fight with Darth Vader. And, well, of course, Yoda was standing on top of Luke's feet. And this, you can kind of just barely balance Yoda. But anyways, like that. And then Yoda yells like, concentrate, and then he falls off like that. And then Luke flips around. Anyways, Yoda was like, Luke was like, I feel cold, and then Yoda was like in the cave. And so Yoda set up an illusion for Luke, and you can use Yoda's snake and he could. I wish that this playset came with more snakes, and it just would have been so much more cool. But Yoda snake can be up on that stick, and then you put Luke's blaster and Luke's lightsaber. And this playset is so crammed with play features. I mean, I don't even know where to begin. And no, I'm not going to point out the lizard with Emily engraved on it. And I do know where that is, but I'm not going to waste time on that. We will save that for a separate video. Anyways, here's how this works. So, you have these two action levers, and you can make them fight like this. And then, eventually, Luke goes for the kill, and he kills Vader. Well, not actually. And if only Kenner had given us a Darth Vader with a removable helmet. Even if, we could have got a removable helmet Vader with Luke's face, and a removable helmet Vader with Anakin Skywalker's face. There were two. I mean, we got 6 Lukes, we got 5 Leias, and 5 Hans. And we only got 1 Vader. There were 2 other opportunities for Vaders. Now, the Luke Vader would have been nice to have. The Anakin Skywalker version of Vader, that would have been, yes, very cool to have, very necessary, very pivotal moment in the original trilogy. And then, of course, you all remember this. Vader's helmet explodes, and Luke's face is under there. And then Luke comes out of the cave, and he goes and confronts Yoda. And it's like, I see a city in the clouds, and that is all of the Dagobah action we get. So, do you have a Dagobah playset? It is certainly a very, very, very cool playset to have. And now, I cannot believe I waited this long to have this playset, because as soon as I got it, I was like, why didn't I get this sooner? This is a very, you must have this playset if you're collecting vintage Star Wars. It is a very small playset, so it will not take up a lot of shelf space. I mean, how can you not like Dagobah? It is where Luke trained to become a Jedi. It's one of the best playsets in the original counter range. It's almost as good as the Death Star, but the Death Star's cooler, but Dagobah's definitely in the top 10. So guys, what are your thoughts? Do you have a Dagobah? Do you want a Dagobah after watching this video? So guys, thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.